Howdy folks, welcome to show number 42 of the Scannell agenda. Today's date is Friday, December 18th, 2015. This is the second part of the MQS VP Fishery Manager, SJFS. Now, we're going to go over some of this 1995 stuff that I've come out with. Introduction. Let's take good care of the ocean. What is it? The market quota system is a simple user fee system. Well, it's a complex system. But at the foundation would be asset management, and then the core would be this pricing system. So fishermen are, let's say, working with a system now that is not asset-based. It's based on fishermen's rights. Okay, so I'm saying let's get away from that. So fishermen are now fishing and taking fish from the ocean basically free of charge. Currently they pay for a license and go fishing. Well, what's wrong with that? That's always worked. Has it really? Okay, well, I don't think so. Fishermen currently keep the fish they catch at no cost, with the exception of the small license fee and income taxes, etc. Well, that's nothing small, income taxes. All right, I understand that. Essentially, they don't pay anything. Let's say for a user fee. I didn't have that in there. Commercial fishermen are very valuable to a community in many different ways. Very true. The market quota system is a government user fee system that charges fishermen by the pound for the privilege or the rights of harvesting the fish that they catch. Now, privilege or right, I think it's more of a right for any young American or any American to be a fisherman. That should not be a confiscated thing that anyone can take and say, I'm the fisherman, you can just watch, I'll do the fishing. See, that doesn't square up with the American ethic of equal opportunity, number one. Some of these things that we come up with that don't square with the rules or the law, I don't know how we justify some of this stuff we've done. The ocean is public property. The public is doing a bad job of taking care of the ocean, and we need to change. So we need to change the public's mindset about taking care of the ocean, and that's true worldwide. We need to be asset managers of the ocean, and we need to pick a system and preferably pick a person that can drive this system and get it started up, and I can do that. It's not a complex thing to do for me because I've been working on this for years and years. I think it would be an easy system to teach professionals in fishery management, and professionals of all kinds would pick up on this system very quickly and easily. It's not difficult. The market quota system would have fishermen bid for the fish that they catch at an auction. And there are several ways of doing this. It doesn't necessarily have to be a bid or an auction. It is a competitive system. At the auction, the fisherman would be charged extra if the fisherman is hurting Mother Nature. Again, this is 1995. And if the fisherman is being kind to Mother Nature, the fisherman will be charged less at the auction. So we're using the carrot and the stick. Small fishermen will be protected and helped. That's just my sentiment about small fishermen. And this is in an era when consolidation, as it's called, was gaining great importance. People were buying fishing permits and holding on to these fishing rights as they would hold on to a very valuable real estate deed. And I've always said, these permits are more like real estate deeds than anything else. They don't really pertain to conservation at all. They pertain to strictly who has the right to catch the fish, which was the wrong rat hole to go down, folks. You know, the difficulty would be doing actual fishery management with the asset of habitat being number one, and the asset of the stocks, let's say the cod stocks or the bay scallop stocks, mussel, quahog, and this is an older, it's got a lot of purple on it, so it's not the notada quahog, it's the real thing. And then this would be a soft shell clam. All these have their fishery plans. Now, I was thinking the other day how silly it is to, you know, dole out little squares for aquaculture when you can really incentivize aquaculture of a public nature, public aquaculture. Fishermen and the aquaculturalist would make a lot more money with the market quota system, because it's just more of a system that fits with Mother Nature. And these little squares on little patches of the harbor or whatever, that's not so much, really. See, fishing, you're fishing in neighborhoods. If I'm out there scalloping, you're in different neighborhoods biologically speaking. You'd be surprised how different these neighborhoods are, as I call them. Fishermen don't talk like this, but these are different zones where you might get a zone of nothing but codium, and then an area where you have nothing but mud and maybe a few scallops, and then you've got some eelgrass that's sparse, and then you've got some eelgrass that's really thick and you can hardly get through it, and then you've got sand, and then you've got deep water channel areas, maybe with a lot of monkey dung. That's yellow stuff that if you get into that, boy, you're going to have some disappointment there, because it's very heavy. It's like spongy coral stuff. I'm sure there's another name for it. Let's see. The market quota system is designed to be fair to all Americans, and actually all countries if you're looking at it internationally. So it represents equal opportunity. It is a system that is open to participation by any fisherman. And also, if you're not a fisherman, if you're a fish market, you may be able to get into it too with commodity fishing rights. Currently, our system is locking out some American fishermen and telling them that they cannot get a license to fish. Well, this is old news. I think in the mid-70s, this limited entry wall went up, and conservation stopped as well. Everything was locked into cement in the mid-70s. And nothing much has changed since the onset of this bad way of fishery. I wouldn't call it management, fishery allocation system. It's just, when you take a fisheries management approach, fisheries allocations are part of that approach, but in the old way that we set up, the fisheries allocations, in other words, dividing up the pie, that got about 95% of the attention, which is absurd. The market quota system will fund things like scientific research and development. It will fund fisheries law enforcement. It will fund public aquaculture. That's the biggie. Fishermen will be hired by the government, and it doesn't mean necessarily a government job. It could be, you know, a grant by some kind of a fishermen's group or a conservation group or a marine laboratory, et cetera, et cetera. But indirectly, the government would be behind this management approach, obviously, if we wanted to do this. So fishermen will be hired by the government to help make the ocean produce more seafood. Do you want more seafood? I got to tell you, I got this palsy going on. Maybe I wouldn't have it if I were a little healthier with eating more seafood, because I can't afford to eat good seafood. And my wife and I cooked up some dogfish the other day, and it just kind of turned my stomach. But I've always said the dogfish is really good eating, and I'm sure if it's fresh, it was in the freezer too long. And I had a batch in the freezer too long, and it turned my stomach, and it turned the wife's stomach, and I had to throw it away in the garbage because it was in the freezer too long. And I said, oh man, what are we going to eat tonight? This is last night. I just wish I could have some codfish and some reasonable seafood. This is sick. And it's causing sickness in Americans not to have seafood. I think I told the story of my mother. She boycotted codfish when it went to 35 cents a pound for, fillet of codfish at Al Payne's, where I grew up, down in Harwich. And I remember Mom getting upset. Poor Al Payne, he said, it's got nothing to do with me. Of course it had nothing to do with him. But Mom, born in 1920, Depression era, World War II, public servant, she had cheap fish all her life, basically. And then to have this price go through the roof, 35 cents a pound. Well, what's the price of codfish now? And what's it up to, about 12, 13? I've seen it up as high as 19 bucks a pound, I think. Fresh Cape Cod codfish, not frozen Icelandic codfish, which is delicious, but still. The codfish apology needs to happen, and then you need to hire me to get a job. What's this? I'm looking at the monitor. Okay, you get a job. You find a job. Okay, I want to be the fishery manager of the world. Market Quota System VP, Fishery Manager, SJFS, that's me. Now, what do you want to do? Nothing? What do the fishermen want to do? Oh, I'm so sick of it. What do the fishermen want to do? So sick of it. It's really, really gotten us into a pickle. The market quota system will help fishermen do their fair share for America. Because right now, fishermen don't think in terms of doing that. That's why we're out of fish. The market quota system will need to be subsidized by the taxpayers at first, hopefully heavily subsidize this system from a worldwide point of view. This will unify the world. One of those things that'll unify the world together in a very civilized way. And incidentally, landlocked countries would have a piece of the pie, too. But eventually, it would be a self-supporting system. Ultimately, the ocean should be a real source of wealth for America. America has been blessed, and then we ruined it, of course, with beautiful fishing grounds, like the world's best fishing grounds. And now the codfish is, pretty much scarce. Pretty much it's an hors d'oeuvre. It's an hors d'oeuvre item. Kind of like the bay scallops. If you went to buy the bay scallops at your fish market, they may be 30 bucks a pound. So I can remember getting as little as, I think it was $4.25 a pound for a fisherman on Nantucket. And I was a little bit irate, and I got my picture in the paper and went down, and I was selling the bay scallops to local people on Main Street on Nantucket for the same price, and I actually gave them a little more, and a few people got ticked off. I was ticked off because fishermen have to take the price, basically, or were dumb enough to take the price that the fish buyers come up with. And there's a lot of parallels to that with today's government systems, with collusion in the marketplace. The market quota system is a radically new approach to taking care of the whole ocean. When I hear this radicalized about the terrorism, these are religious perverts. Please, radical thinking is not a bad thing. Radicalized, to me, you're stealing that word. You know, radical. Okay, radical now means, you know, a terrorist. But radical thinking is what this is, but it's basic market system thinking, folks. It's based on the free enterprise system. It will work on anything from whales to snails. With the market quota system of fishery management, all Americans will realize the ocean's great productive potential. How would you love that? How would you love to see down there in the Chatham Fish Pier truckloads of Chatham going over the bridge from Chatham Fish Pier, truckloads and truckloads of codfish going over the bridge. Big muscular fishermen handling all that fish. Okay, in the old days, in my mother's day, let's say, when she was born in 1920, let's take that point in time, because I did a lot of reading when I was a little boy. The draggers would load up their boats, and these would be, let's just say, a 60 or 70-foot dragger with a very small 120, 150 horsepower diesel with a small net. They'd have to be careful back in 1920, let's say, not to tow too long, because they would come up with a net that would be so full of fish that they'd have to cut the net open and then spill out some of the fish. And then, of course, that would be the labor intensive. They'd have to sew the net back up because they towed for too long. And they'd be coming in with beautiful fish. But back then, let's say 1920, what would happen possibly would be that they would go to the market to sell the fish, the fishermen would, and then they'd find out that the fish was so plentiful that the market wasn't paying anything, or that they could get 1 cent a pound for these beautiful fish that they'd bring in. And so the fishermen wouldn't want to shoot themselves in the foot and sell for a penny a pound, and they might just steam out and dump the fish overboard and then try the market again, because loading up with fish back in 1920 would be the easy thing to do, and then with a dragger. And then you'd come in with a load of fish. Now, if you hit the market right and got paid for the fish, other than a penny a pound, if you got more for the fish, then you could make the boat pay, and you could pay the crew. So that's the extreme of where we were. In light of where we are now, it's like night and day. There's no comparison to where we were then as far as the resource value. So you can see where people would think a little bit later on, you know, in the 50s, they might think, well, the market should just tend to the fisheries. We've never had to do any of this. But, you know, I knew a guy, Charlie Sales Sr. on Nantucket, and he was into fishing way back when, probably in the 1910s and so on. Maybe a little later than that. Now, his philosophy was that we shouldn't be dragging and ruining the bottom, that we should fish like on the edge of George's Bank and don't fish on top of it, and you're ruining all the kelp and everything else, and you'll have no fishery. A lot of these people in fisheries, and these fishermen, they could see what was going on years ago, many, many, many years ago. They could see it all going downhill. And they weren't with it. And I think Charlie just lost his stomach for fishing. I think he became a scrimshander, and he did a lot of other things on Nantucket, but he was one of those people that when I came around on Nantucket in 1979 and in the early 80s, you know, I heard all his stories, and I knew they were true because I heard all the stories from the fishermen on the Cape when I was a boy. So I was raised with all these stories about how wonderful the fishing was, and it's just a shame. But we need to know the history, because we need to know enough about the history to know that we can't keep going with this foolishness that we're doing here. Okay, here's our second chapter would be the economic value of seafood. It's got the retail value, it's got the harvest value, it's got the public resource value. So these are all different values economically for the seafood. I'll read the last paragraph here. The public resource value attached to seafood is separate but related to the retail value and the harvest value. The linkages between these economic values must be logical, and also these linkages must be prioritized. The highest value is the public resource value. It is an economic law of value that to misclassify value is tantamount to the destruction of wealth. Squandering wealth is fundamentally sinful. I think I'm running for Pope, you know, because a lot of this stuff is moralizing, which I'm not afraid to do because I was raised by nuns. They'd say that's wrong, and they'd back it up, and they'd teach the kids. So that's how I was raised. When something's wrong, I say it's wrong, it's immoral. So squandering wealth is fundamentally sinful. This is me in 1995, but I still feel that is true. So the harvest value, scallops also have another type of value. It is a value associated with the fisherman's right to catch the scallop. Now these are fishing rights here. So these are harvest value rights. Okay, so the seafood, let's say this is a bay scallop, has three separate economic values. It's got the retail value. You go to the store, you buy the scallop. That's a retail value, wholesale value. Basically the same thing. A little difference. And then it's got my value as a fisherman using my little dredges there. I have value getting the right to fish, and we'd have to pay $250 for a fishing permit, I think, and then a state permit. But that would be paid back in a day of fishing, a good day. The public resource value is what I'm after to teach you, that the economics of fisheries, you have to look at seafood value in three ways. You get the retail value, you understand that, wholesale retail value, but you don't understand the harvest value so much. You understand you love fishermen, and that's not good enough. That's actually bad, and I relate the candy store. The candy store approach to fishery management, basically that's what we're doing here. When we let the kids into the candy store, and the kids are uncontrolled in the candy store, you don't deed over the candy store and the candy shop to children, do you? Of course not. That doesn't work. You know, you've got to have the books and the balance sheet on the candy store has to be proper. So the way we run things is that the kids are running the candy store, or let's say the fishermen are running the fishery management systems, and lo and behold, what have they done over the years since 1970s, mid-70s? The fishermen have said, you know, you need to help us, we need help. A few people need to have all these fishing rights to ourselves. And that was always wrong. And I always knew it was wrong, I always said it was wrong. And there were always camps of fishermen that were fishing for history. They were driving the fishery management systems of the future by claiming history, like you're in a gold mine, and your history would represent then your permit value and your tonnage value that you could get. So it was the day that the fisheries economists went out to lunch. I remember I gave a seminar at University of Rhode Island on the market quota system, and the grad students liked it a lot. As well, I made a presentation in Rhode Island to the Ocean State Aquaculture Association. This is many years ago, many, many years ago. And they all liked it, basically, you know, because it made sense. Rhode Island really got stung many years ago with grants, aquaculture grants that tied everything all up. So they had problems with private aquaculture tying everything up, but this is not private aquaculture, basically. It's public aquaculture. The seafood is broken down into its economic parts so that you can rebuild a good system, refurbish the old system, or rather scrap the old system. Here's another chapter. Better days are coming with the market quota system. Managing the ocean for productivity. The definition of the market quota system is to be found in the dictionary. Break the 3 words down. Market, the buying and selling of goods and services. Quota, how many or a certain proportional part or share. And then system is things united by some form of regular interaction or interdependence. So the market quota system is a true fishery management system, and what we have today is not a true system. It's only an allocation system that we have now, and although they do work as fishery managers, it's not real. We're just giving out the codfish that are worth a lot more than the fishing rights, than the fisherman's value, retail value. These codfish now are the brood stock, and these fishery managers, so-called, are giving away these codfish. Do you want to eat codfish in the future? Well, then don't let them. Put a stop to that. Put your foot on the brake. Say, whoa, whoa, how are we ever going to have codfish here on Cape Cod? You kidding me? There's been no editorials on this. It's utterly absurd. That's another thing, you know, if you're reading the Cape Cod Times over the years, you're basically reading about the fisherman's mantra, the fisherman's woes, and the fisherman's this, and the fisherman's that. It's all been fisherman-centered. I'm public resource management-centered, but I am a fisherman, and that's what you want. You don't want to be duped into this fishery management system that's all about the fishermen. No, fishermen are important assets, but it can't be all about it. It's just all about it, and that's it. It's just silly business, really. It's what I call happy cake. The particular public resource could be timber, minerals, oil, fish, water, grazing rights, airport space, etc., or taxi licenses. The market quota system invention, well, I didn't invent the market. That's all it is. It's basically the market used for public resource management. The market quota system invention is designed to allocate a public resource. The market quota system is specifically designed as a government tool. Now, that's when I say I design comprehensive, complex systems for the public trust. This is for the public trust. Fishermen will benefit enormously from this system. And that's it, folks. That's another show in the can. So thanks for watching the Scannell Agenda. Thank you very much.